everyone. Jack home here, and it's time for episode 4 of Jason and the Gentleman. And of course, joining me as always is the gentleman of mixed martial arts, the gentleman Josh Hill. Josh, how are you doing, my man?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. I'm just living in a sea of boxes here in the middle of a move, but overall, we're good, man. How are you?
I'm doing quite well. Thankfully, not covered by a sea of boxes, but you know what? Moving is an exciting thing, and best of luck with the move. How many more days or weeks do you guys actually get out of that house and move into the other one?
Yeah, we get the house on the 26th, so about a week away, and then we got to be out here by the 28th. So we got 2 days to kind of get everything over there.
It's kind of like a fight camp right now. The last days of preparation before the big move, eh?
Yeah, getting it all in, finishing touches, and then
Yeah.
off to war.
Yeah, exactly. Off to war. Well, Josh, someone that was on the war path this past weekend was Brian Ortega. He returned to the UFC after about a 2 or so year layoff after, being dealt with a handful of injuries, a broken orbital bone, a torn ACL, and he came back and looked reinvented, rebuilt, brand new, and honestly, one of the more exciting guys that can be out there at featherweight. And he took it to Chan Sung Jung in a way that I didn't think he could. What were your thoughts on his performance? And obviously, the big win is huge for him and may get him the next title shot at 145 pounds.
Yeah, there was a lot of questions going into it. We spoke a bit before, coming off his first ever professional loss. Some guys, they depends how they react after that. You know what I mean? They'd never experienced that defeat. So, but I thought, he would just come back better, and he did, man. He showcased, in 2 years too. Like you see guys make huge improvements in only a few months. So 2 years, it can be totally different fighter. And he looked great. His striking looked good. His jab actually really looked good. I thought that was the thing that stuck out most for me was how effective his jab was and how he utilized his movement. But yeah, man, it was he looked great, and there was really no grappling. It was more of a striking affair, and the Korean Zombie just couldn't seem to get his rhythm or his distance and his timing. And it wasn't until I think about the fifth round where he finally started putting the pressure on Ortega and landed a little bit more shots. But overall, man, Ortega just looked good and just put it to him for almost all 5 rounds almost.
Yeah, the judges had it all across the board, 50-45, giving Ortega all 5 rounds. And there's no argument from me, and probably not yourself as well, Josh. But honestly, I think what was most impressive was not only the layoff, but he had a whole new camp. Like one guy from the camp that got him to, that original featherweight title shot against Max Holloway is a part of it. And that's one of the Gracies, Henner Gracie, that he was with, wasn't there with him due to the amount of people you can have with COVID. But I think that's what makes this more impressive. A whole new team and a whole new man. And Ortega right now is pretty much on the doorstep after one fight removed from a title fight. Even though it's 2 years later, he's back in that same spot looking like his striking just took me by surprise, Josh.
Yeah, man. He just, his game was already good. He's already, number one or two guy in the world. So, but he just, continues to evolve and get better. And sometimes, guys need that change. And it's not even necessarily like they don't, their camp isn't doing anything good for them or whatnot. Just it's a different set of eyes, a different, room, different field, different training partners. And sometimes that, that makes you grow. You got to step outside your comfort zone. And that's the only way you do grow. So, you've seen the benefits of that with him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in a whole new look, he had to shave the precious locks to make maybe that extra pound. It was amazing when he did it, but then, of course, he came out and said the reason he did it, he thought about it for a while, and that hair he's donating to, pediatric kids with cancer. So Brian Ortega, honestly, one of the nicest, most real guys in the sport. And I thought also gave a pretty great near one-word post-interview clip where he said, if you doubted me, thank you for the support, but if you were doubting me, you know what, I don't need you and stuff like that. And DC didn't let him have that. I know producers are in his ears, but that would have been such an epic post-fight interview. Just one comment like that after coming back and really adding another aura to Ortega, I thought.
Yeah. It's always cool to see that, and he's right. You know what I mean? There, you see a lot of people when you're at the top and you're winning and shit like that. There's everybody wants to be around you. Everybody's messaging you, calling you, and then once you lose, you find out the real supporters. You know what I mean? And you always want those people around, right? Because they're not in it just for the thrill of the victories. They're in it because they support you. And I'm sure he found out a lot of those people after his first loss.
Well, we're talking about Ortega here, probably being next in line for a featherweight title. What do you think his style matches up here against, Alex Volkanovski, a guy that's gone to some serious wars to not only win the title against Max Holloway, but, maybe controversially, but whatever, he did enough what it needed to be done to retain the title against Max Holloway. But Ortega brings such a different style because we knew about the grappling, but now the striking at it is an element.
Yeah, somebody asked me about this, who wins, Volkanovski or Ortega, and I had trouble answering it just because, Ortega does look so well-rounded, man. His jits is phenomenal, his striking looked really good, and Volkanovski's that explosive, his movement's great, his footwork's great, his kicks are great. So I don't know, thinking about it, man, that's a toss-up for me. Volkanovski would have to get inside, use his speed, use his power. I probably have the advantage in the wrestling department, I would think, just being the shorter, more compact, explosive guy. But on the ground, Ortega's definitely got the jiu-jitsu advantage. So yeah, man, that would be an interesting fight to see. And Ortega's huge for 45 too. He's a big dude, cuts a lot of weight. And Volkanovski's, he's short, but he's thick. So yeah, man, that's a good one. I don't know if I would pick in that one right now.
I mean, it's still nothing's been announced, and it's maybe down the line. It seems that way for Ortega, but just as we're talking here, is Volkanovski like the most disrespected champion right now in the UFC because he wasn't the favorite in the rematch against Holloway, and all the talk, obviously, recency bias for Ortega, but everyone's just thinking Ortega would just take the title from Volkanovski. And I think Volkanovski's done a lot to earn a lot of respect. He's the champion, but we're not talking about him like he's the champion. We keep talking about him like he's the challenger.
Yeah, I don't know why people don't really give him the credit because I think he's amazing, man. That guy is, when I saw him fight, Chad Mendez, and I was like, oh my God, this guy is just, he's a killer, man. And then beating Holloway twice. I know the second one was very close, but he did it twice. I mean, he went, 10 rounds with Holloway and won both fights. So. Yeah, he's a killer, man, and I think he is. People do sleep on him a lot and don't give him the respect he deserves as a champ.
Well, that was the main event of the past UFC 5 on Fight Island. I mean, the other real story coming out of this is women's flyweight is starting to look real interesting. Jessica Andrade comes out and finishes Caitlin Chukagian, who's no easy task to finish at all, let alone finish in the first round. And personally, I think Jessica Andrade within one fight is the number one contender to take on Valentina Shevchenko. And for Andrade, she's found herself this perfect mix. She was, a little too small for 135 and a little too big for women's strawweight, even though she was the champion. But 125 is the perfect weight class.
Hey, Doug. Yeah, man, she's like jacked. You know what I mean? She looks bigger than I do out there in the cage. But yeah, she's that little Mike Tyson-esque style, and she showcased it in that fight with the body shot that eventually got the finish.
Yeah, of all the body shots I've seen in MMA, that was one that really it just took me by surprise because you don't see someone kind of give themselves up like, oh, that really hurt like that. When Chukagian turned, like, oh man, like she really sold herself out like I'm in a world of trouble. And then you just saw Andrade just going in for the kill.
Yeah, worst thing you could do, man. You got to put that poker face on. I've had shots that definitely have hurt, in the fight, and you wouldn't think it just because I put that face on and act like everything's all good, but I know that one hurt. But yeah, obviously it really hurt her, but like, yeah, she just the way she turned her back and just pretty much said, I'm done. This fight's over if you hit me again, and it was, that thereof.
Yeah, it was a great little 1-2 combination to the body that finished it off for sure there for Jessica Andrade. Jimmy Crute had a big win. up-and-coming prospect at 205. Only one loss in the UFC. That was to Misha Serkinov by Peruvian necktie last year in Vancouver. And we got to give love to Canadian Jillian Robertson, who had a dominant victory at as well, women's flyweight. And Jillian's a girl that's really just found her home in the UFC right now. And it's always nice when you see a fighter just find their groove in one of these top promotions.
Yeah. They work hard to get there, and then it's sometimes you see them get there and then they fall off just because couldn't handle it. But like when you find somebody like that and they find their groove and doing well, then that's awesome. She's doing good. So the more the Canadians and the bigger shows, the better. And props to her.
Yeah, for sure. Jillian Robertson, a real solid fighter right now at women's flyweight, winning 2 in a row right now in the UFC. But that was last weekend, Josh. As we move on to this weekend in the UFC, it's arguably maybe the biggest pay-per-view that the UFC is going to put on this year. It's Khabib Nurmagomedov taking on Justin Gathje for the UFC Lightweight Championship. I mean, any way you cut this fight down, you can cut it one way for Gaethje, you can cut it one way for Khabib. It's such a pick'em fight, but it's such an exciting fight. And I think that's what's really the selling point, as this one's based totally on how good these guys are. No storyline or anything needed. This is just based on serious athleticism at the highest level. Yeah,
this is a good one. The biggest question, and we still don't really get to see it a lot, is going to be the Gaethje's wrestling. How is it going to hold up against a guy like Khabib, right? Gaethje is a great wrestler, has good credentials, but he never uses it. You know what I mean? You never see him really shoot for takedowns. He loves being on the feet, loves the brawl. But the one thing I do like about Gaethje is, if you look at all his fights in the early UFC when he got there, and then back when World Series, I remember fighting with World Series when he was there. Every fight he was in an absolute war. And he took a lot of damage, but he gave even more damage. But you can see after, I think it was fight with Poirier and Alvarez, when he got finished by them, he really honed it in and started working on the mechanics of actually, moving your head and cutting angles and keeping your hands up and using the fundamentals to protect yourself. And you've seen him, he's been amazing. Like that Tony Ferguson fight, he picked him apart and beat the hell out of him. So that is good to see. I like seeing that because he's a killer, man. But yeah, it's could be, once, he does get you down, will he be able to keep Gaethje down? That's a big question. And basically it's going to be, is Gaethje going to catch him on the feet with hands, or is Khabib going to be able to control him, maul him, and beat him up on the ground? That's what it comes down to, and we don't really know. It's going to be exciting.
I think you hit it on the head there. Is Gaethje's wrestling, because you said he doesn't really use it right there, but when he does use it, it's as violent as his stand-up is. This is a guy that loves to pick you up, throw you down with a vengeance, like try to knock you out via the slam takedown, much like how Tito Ortiz did to Evan Tanner back at UFC 20. But Khabib's never fought a guy with such high-credentialed wrestlers in the UFC. Like, yeah, Quinta was able to stop a couple takedowns, but how much is that you had to change your game plan in about 48 to 24 hours notice? And I think that's what, to me, really makes this fight interesting. It could be a real exciting matchup, because that's, to me, where it works out for Khabib, because if Khabib stays on the feet, that's an area he doesn't want to be in.
Yeah, but the biggest thing with Khabib and what he does so well, I mean, yeah, his wrestling is great, but it's just pressure, man. It just he's constantly coming forward, and it keeps you on your back foot, and that is more difficult to defend takedowns moving backwards. I mean, Gaethje usually does always move forwards, which makes it intriguing. But it just Khabib won't stop after he misses a shot or if he gets stuffed. He'll just keep going, eventually until he gets that takedown. He has that wrestling cardio to go 25 minutes. It's going to see whether Gaethje can defend for that long and use that to keep it standing and get him on the feet.
I mean, it's such an interesting fight. I'm so excited for it. And I'm also excited about the 2 p.m. pay-per-view start time. I am so for this. I mean, obviously, they're doing it more so for the effect of the European audience and the folks in Russia that want to see Khabib fight. But hey, if we had more 2 p.m. pay-per-views, that'd be the best. We don't need to stay up sometimes to 10, sometimes to 1, 2 in the morning, how a card goes. 2 p.m., get it in, out by 5, and we're good to go. Because last year when Khabib fought around this time at UFC 242, I was for this as well. I mean, I had another place to go. Got to watch a whole fight card, live your life. I'm excited for that as much as I am excited for this fight. And, for Khabib, there's a lot of talk because, he's got some team members on here, but this is the first fight without his dad. I can't imagine the loss that he must have gone through, the emotional trauma, especially because he died of complications of this insane pandemic that's going on. But the way, just seeing Khabib in the interviews, he's totally like 10 times more laser focused. And knowing what we've seen from Khabib and out there, do you think how hard do you think this is for him right now to just block that out? Because everyone keeps asking him about it. And I think maybe people asking about his dad passing is going to maybe bring out a different side and a different type of aggression we haven't seen from Khabib.
Yeah. It just, that's definitely going to be hard no matter what. His dad's his coach, and his dad obviously is best friend. So not having him there is going to be different, and it's going to be hard, no matter what, no matter how you slice it. But, I could see him, using this to be more aggressive, more, be more laser focused, like you said. But he's got to make sure he doesn't get too over aggressive. And don't use this to, you don't want to go in there and just look to kill and look to knock him out. He's still got to be controlled, calculated, pick his shots how he wants to, which I think he will, because I think he's just a mentally tough guy. And I think that's one of his biggest strong suits as well. He's very, very mentally tough. You've seen it with Conor. Most guys that fight Conor, he does get in their head. He gets them aggressive. He gets them, really, really using their emotions to their disadvantage. And it didn't work with Khabib. So, I think he's very, very mentally tough. But that being said, it is different. We'll see how he reacts to it in the cage without his dad there, which is so unfortunate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the other, for me, interesting thing is, watching Gaethje. You mentioned, you fought on some cards with him at the World Series of Fight. It's kind of crazy that World Series of Fight, which, got some nice publicity with some of the guys that they brought out there. But, Gaethje's now fighting for a title after being a lightweight champion there. Marlon Moraes fought for a title after being a champion there. It's kind of wild to see that promotion, which rebranded, moves along, has some guys that are making some waves, and shows that World Series of Fight had some serious depth in the pool when they.
Yeah, man. Yeah, when they were around, they put on great shows. I like fighting for them. And it was, I got to fight for the world title twice for them against Marlon. They had some great guys. It just shows you that there's other, high-end talent out there that are, not in the UFC, that eventually either make their way over, or sometimes they don't. But, there's the, World Series, which is now PFL, Bellator, UFC, One, Risen. There's top-notch guys all over the world, man.
Yeah, for sure. And then we'll maybe dabble in some of the up-and-coming guys later on in the show. But the co-main event at UFC 254, Josh, I'm very intrigued by. This is one I don't even, as tough as the main event is to pick, the co-main's just as tough. Pretty much a number one contender fight for the middleweight championship. Robert Whittaker takes on Jared Cannonier. And Cannonier, he's been through now, this is his third weight class in the UFC, from heavyweight to light heavyweight. Light heavyweight didn't go his way. And then, he got his diet on point, cut the pounds to make 185. And he's just been a killer, knocking guys out. The finish of Jack Hermanson last year was unbelievable. But Robert Whittaker, ever since, taking that time off, he looks super crisp coming back against Darren Till, who's not an easy opponent by any means. And winner of this one's going to fight Adesanya, if it's Cannonier for the first time, and for Whittaker, a rematch.
Yeah, I look forward to this one, man. I'm a big Whittaker fan. I really like watching him fight. I think he's very well-rounded, and he moves very well for a middleweight too. But Cannonier, like you said, he's a heavyweight coming down to light heavyweight, coming down to middleweight. So he's got that, that brute power and explosiveness, and he's bigger men. So that will come into advantage for him. But if I had to pick, I'm going to pick Whittaker. I just think he's too crafty. He moves too well, more experienced as far as championship level. And I think he gets it done. I'm not sure how he gets it done. I'm going to go with the decision. But I pick him as the winner.
It's such a tough one for me, because I know Whittaker, he's got championship mentality. He's been in some championship fights that went the distance, that were wars. But do you think him being in those wars kind of, as you were talking about with how Gaethje before, this run to a title at lightweight kind of affected him? Do you think those wars hurt him in a fight with someone like Jared Cannonier, who's kind of coming in with the fresher body?
Just all depends on the individual and their recovery and their body. Obviously, it's a sport where I try not to take as much damage as I possibly can. I try to walk out of there clean slate every time, but it's not going to happen. But I think, I mean, I think that the battles with Romero will definitely help him in this fight. Going against such an explosive freak athlete that's got power and explosiveness and athleticism, kind of like Jared Cannonier. So I think that'll be a help for Whitaker.
I think the other interesting thing too is because he's Robert Whitaker. He's been very honest that he was burnt out when he defended the title against Adesanya, wasn't enjoying it as much, and he had to take pretty much the rest of the year to almost up until the end of the pandemic. Like the pandemic, he said, was actually a good thing for him to get away, refocus, and it just goes back to that mental mindset that a lot of people kind of don't look at, where that's such a big important thing because you're the champion. You got to not only prepare for the guys gunning for your belt, but the appearances, what have you, all that other stuff. And now he got away from it, and he's now coming back fresher. And I think maybe that mental freshness could be the huge advantage in this fight.
100%. I love the mental game. I'm studying the mental game now, and I think it's so underutilized and underused and underrated. How important it actually is. And yeah, burnout is a real thing. You know what I mean? Whether you're on top or you're on the bottom or whatever, burnout definitely is a real thing. And you have to manage that. The mental stresses accordingly. And sometimes, yeah, time away is a good thing. I took a bit of time myself, and I felt way better when I came back. And even sometimes when I went in between camps and I'm training a little bit too much, if I take a week off, I come back and spar after a week, I feel way better than I did, the weeks leading up to that. I see things a little bit better. My mind's fresher. I'm enjoying it more because I had some time off, so I'm excited to be back. So I think some time off definitely, help him, and it'll continue to help him.
Yeah, I remember you had to take some time off towards one of your last TKO fights. I mean, what was the decision in taking time off? Because I think, seeing some posts, you were kind of thinking about calling it quits, weren't you?
At one point, almost, man. Yeah. I came off an injury. I tore my pec and I was out for 6 months. So I had a long rehab from that. And then I had 4 fights fall through in a row, month after month after month after month. So I was in training camp for about 6 months. And then finally I got a fight and I lost a split decision. But going into the fight, I wasn't there mentally, and I was so burnt out, and going into it, I was just glad that it was coming to an end so I can enjoy time off, which is not the right mindset you want going into a fight. So after that, I really, I took about a month or so off completely from MMA. Still did some, exercise and stuff, but it was so beneficial for me, man. It kind of got me, loving the sport again and missing it, and I was happy to be back. So they're needed, man. Mental breaks are really needed.
Well, we've seen the success you've had post your mental break. Obviously, on that win streak you've been on, get to Bellator, and Whitaker going 1-for-1 after that with the big win against Darren Till. So a real exciting co-main event, and pretty much once again title implications for whoever wins. And I think if Whitaker wins, this is going to be an interesting rematch. I don't know if Adesanya would like it so much, but you have 2 Aussie guys that kind of don't like each other. I think that adds to a lot of intrigue and to see what would be the differences that Whitaker would make in a rematch with Adesanya if he so gets there.
Yeah, it'd be good. I'd like to see it. I mean, the first fight, I said this after about the first 2 or 3 minutes. Did it finish in the first round? I can't remember. Was it second round?
Second round.
Second round. Okay. Well, I think it was after the first round. I said, this is not looking good. Adesanya is starting to find his holes and find his timing, and then eventually, he got the finish. So Whitaker would definitely have to change it up a little bit. Obviously, it didn't work the first time. He's gonna have to maybe incorporate a little bit more wrestling with him. I know Adesanya is, difficult to take down, but yeah, obviously it didn't work the first time. So the game plan's got to change and got to come at it differently.
Yeah, for sure. Well, it's going to be an exciting – those are just the co-main and main events. But, an exciting pay-per-view. We had, I believe, 6 fights on the main card. We finally get that Ankalaev Kulatiba rematch, which has been postponed like 3 times because of COVID. But like the first fight was so controversial where Kulatiba was like faking that he was in trouble and the ref stopped it. Like, I don't understand that game plan at all. Like, why would you ever play possum that you're hurt? Because the referee's job is to protect you in there. Not really a smart game plan, but we'll see if that was just a fluke or whatnot. But as well, you have on this card Stefan Struve, Tai Tuivasa. Pretty much that one feels, Josh, like loser goes home.
Yeah, I thought that Thai guy, I didn't know he was still with the promotion, to be honest, but yeah, I seen him, he's fighting and Stefan Struve, he's a guy that's been around for a long time and just he's had his ups and downs and he just can't seem to put that string back together. So yeah, we'll see kind of who comes at someone. There's a much needed win for sure.
It's definitely, and I think you were right. I think Tuivasa was cut, and then I guess they brought him back Yeah, they brought him back in. And the only other thing I think of interest on this card is Casey Kenny within like 2 fights within 2 weeks, as he got a big win a couple weeks ago and then screamed like, I want to stay here. So they're like, okay, so you get to fight a tough guy, Nathaniel Wood. So a fun pay-per-view. And once again, this one starts a lot earlier. Prelims start at 10. Pay-per-view is at 2. I'm excited for that. And the early start time, I can't emphasize enough how awesome that is.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. I when I go to California and watch the fights, they all start at 7 p.m. there, right? Because it's 10 p.m. here. And 7's awesome because, they're done by 10 or so. And then whatever you want to do, you can still do. You guys still have a night to enjoy it. But yeah, usually here it's like sometimes 1:32 in the morning and they're finally finished and you just go to bed. But yeah, the 2 p.m., man, that's cool. I'll go and have some lunch and watch some fights and then go for dinner after or something like that. But yeah, it's I like it, man. I dig it.
Yeah, and also West Coast time undefeated because of the exact same reason you said. You watch a sporting event and it's still like, oh, it's only 10 o'clock. I still got a couple hours to do something. West Coast time undefeated.
Yeah, I agree, man. I like it better.
Well, Josh, we haven't really talked about Conor McGregor on the first couple episodes of this, as, there was still some rumblings and, he was out there making some noise, but it looks like, I was on a podcast, actually, we were talking about, like, does Conor kind of maybe played his hand too much and he's now kind of at the mercy coming back to the UFC? Well, I finished that show and then bam, the news is Conor McGregor has accepted fighting Dustin Poirier January 23rd for UFC 257 starting in the new year. And now Conor wants it to be in Dallas where, they are opening some fans up in the state of Texas. But, how surprised are you that this fight's happening? Or 2, do you actually think this fight will happen? Because apparently contracts officially haven't been signed yet. But nonetheless, Conor McGregor in fight talk is actually kind of more exciting than the other stuff he gets himself involved in.
Yeah, I'm surprised by this fight, to be honest. I didn't think I'm glad Poirier got it. I didn't think McGregor would go, kind of back and take a fight with Poirier. I know Poirier is ranked high, but rankings don't mean shit. We know that. And he's already beat him once too. So yeah, I know that was at 145, I believe too. That was a long time ago. Yeah, man, it's interesting. I mean, Conor, no matter what, he's gonna bring big eyes and viewership to fights. I thought it would be maybe something like more circusy. Something like I heard talk about Pacquiao. And a boxing match. I heard even McGregor rematch, Mayweather rematch. But yeah, so I don't know. I thought it would be something a little bit, crazier, a little bit far-fetched and just kind of out of nowhere. But I mean, yeah, I'd like to see it. Who I think win. I'm a big Poirier fan, and I would hope Poirier. I'd be rooting for him. I don't know if he gets it done. His boxing has improved drastically since that they've fought the first time. And it is at a higher weight class. So I don't know. It is tough, but I still think just it's going to play into McGregor's favor, I think, a bit. And I probably would pick McGregor.
Yeah, I think the fact that it's kind of like there's talks that this is a #1 contendership fight for Khabib and the lightweight title, but it's apparently being at welterweight, which I don't understand. But
and that would make sense with McGregor. Man.
But so is MMA also. Like some craziness like that happens all the time. For me, I just think like Conor's kind of reeling himself in. Like, this is a guy that at one point in a way was bigger than the brand of the UFC. And it seems like, because, his antics and retirements and whatnot, the UFC's kind of been able to wrangle him back in as they've been able to build up some new stars like an Israel Adesanya, and the sport's kind of moved on, and it seemed like Conor was like, I better take this opportunity now, or I may be, just continue to sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, I mean, you got to stay relevant if you want to, still be a big draw and name in the sport. And also, you can do all those antics, but the more you lose, the people are just going to start, not really caring anymore. I mean, he lost to Diaz, but he came back and he won the rematch, which I still think Nate won that fight, but that's neither here nor there. And then, he fought Mayweather and he lost to Mayweather, and then Khabib, beat him up. So, I mean, those are only 3 losses, but the more antics you do, I know people tuning in to either see you get beat up or win, but if you're continuously losing, it's just the attraction is going to kind of fade away. But he did come back, and they gave him, a fight in Cowboy that was, I think, pretty much tailor-made for Conor to get the win against a big name that's really well liked in the sport. So that was very beneficial for him. So, but yeah, this one, I mean, if they're fighting at 155, or if it's going to be for a lightweight number one contender, then it should be at 155. There should not be a 170. I don't know why they're doing that, but who knows, man? It doesn't make sense ever.
Nothing makes sense with Conor. We kind of just play by those rules and have to accept them as fact. But for Dustin Poirier, you mentioned, you're happy for Dustin because Dustin's one the nicest guy in the sport. Fought anyone and everyone, and usually puts on wars, and is coming off arguably one of the best fights of the year, the Dan Hooker fight. But for me, it's like, Dustin kind of looked. They were trying to play him maybe as a pawn. Like he was supposed to fight Tony Ferguson, then he wanted more money because of the stuff he puts through his body, both training and in the fight, and then they didn't give him that, and it seemed like they're kind of putting Dustin on the shelf, but they finally do give Dustin the fight, because I guess they feel for Conor, it is winnable enough, as you mentioned, for why you thought Conor could win this fight, but for Dustin, like, where does he go from here if he can't beat Conor McGregor, who's had one fight in almost a year?
He's still a big enough name that, he still have some big fights. Probably not come back into title contention unless he strings, together, probably 3 wins after that. But yeah, they could, like, that Tony Ferguson fight still there, and there's that division stacked at 155. There's an endless list of killers coming up there. So, but yeah, this is one, I think, and it's a huge, if he beats Conor, that'll be his biggest win of his career for sure, and a chance to rectify a loss.
Well, of course, we all know beating Conor puts you into that stratosphere. Look what it did for Nate Diaz. Look what it did to Khabib. It's pretty much like Khabib's being looked at as one of the biggest stars in the sport. Like, heck, Golden Boy and DAZN was looking at making him fight Canelo Alvarez in a boxing match, which I don't understand that, but whatever. They were looking into that. But, I mean, for Dustin Poirier, as you said, that would be huge. But I think as well, if this fight falls through, because it's Conor, it could still happen and not happening. The best case scenario, I think, for Dustin is if Justin Gaethje wins the lightweight title, because Dustin's got a win over Justin, and there's an instant fight right there to be made. As you mentioned, Ferguson's as well there, but Ferguson seemed like he's kind of dropped a step down in terms of the public size. But I think if you're Poirier, if you want to plan B, you're really hoping for a Gaethje win this Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. And the better Gaethje does, and if he becomes the world champ, then it looks better for Poirier, and that rematch could be set up, with a champion, has to defend a loss, So I'm sure Poirier is rooting for Justin in this one.
Yeah, for sure. But, we're excited to see. Hopefully this does happen, because, look, anytime there's eyeballs on Conor, even though his antics and whatnot, it's better for the sport. So hopefully this fight does end up happening January 23rd at UFC 257. Just got to get both guys to put their name on the dotted line.
Yeah, we'll see what happens, Ben. I think it will, but you never know.
I am leaning more that it will happen, but hopefully we can get an official announcement. But moving on, Josh, Bellator, they had their first real official show on the CBS Sports Network with Bellator 249 from the Mohegan Sun in Unkinsville, Connecticut. Beautiful Unkinsville, Connecticut, where Chris Cyborg once again proved that she's a legend in the sport and absolutely dominated the likes there of Arlene Blenko. Blenko is the perfect stand-up opponent, but really, boxing, when you a pro boxer kind of mixes up in the realm of MMA, that striking's a little different, and Cyborg just picked her apart.
Yeah, way different, man. It's MMA is a game in itself, and blending it is an art in itself. You know, you see it with wrestlers that come. Yeah, they might be amazing wrestlers for wrestling, but when you mix in striking and grappling, you know, it changes the game big time. You look at with GSP. You know, he was never the best wrestler, but you know, in MMA, man, his wrestling was amazing. It's all about his timing and setups and stuff like that. So same thing with boxing. You know, I mean, it's you know, it's a different sport. It's totally different. The glove size are different. You know, things you got to worry about are different. Clinch is different. So you know, Cyborg went out and just showed that she's Cyborg, and probably the best female fighter ever, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. I was watching an Elite XC show from like 2008, and it was like they were trying to set with that's when they were trying to set up the Gina Carano fight, and it eventually happened in Strikeforce. But they were already in 2008 talking about Cyborg being like the best female fighter ever. I mean, sure, MMA is such a young sport, but women's MMA is still young. But I think, you know, Cyborg's just gonna run through people because that weight class, there's not much meat to it in any of the promotions you look at too, whether it's UFC, Bellator, PFL, what have you. There's not much depth there, and it's one of the shames about MMA that it's so organization based, where you can't have anyone fight everyone to really prove that. But Cyborg's gonna right now prove her legacy. I don't see anyone beating her for that title for a long period of time.
No, yeah, I think the only girl that, you know, really challenges her is the girl that beat her last, Amanda Nunes, right? Other than that, I really can't see anybody at her level, at both their level, you know, at 145 stepping in and dethroning her, not right now anyway.
Well, the co-main event of Bellator 249 is definitely one of intrigue. One, Leandro Higo had one of his best performances, absolutely pretty much picking apart Ricky Bandejas. But once again, weight issues happen where Higo pretty much said, I'm just going to take the weight cut fine, and I'm going to be in there bigger, better, hydrated, easily and more quickly. And that's one of the big reasons why he was able to dominate Ricky Bandejas. I mean, Josh, your thoughts on the performance? I mean, this is your division in Bellator, but the floor is yours, my man.
I was watching this one closely. Yeah, man, it's bullshit, man. It's there has to be way more repercussions for missed weight, because I had the same management as Ricky, and I heard that they were asking for a catch weight like a week out, so they knew that Higo wasn't going to make weight coming into it, and so, you know, to lose 20% of your purse, but to be the bigger guy and not have to suffer through the weight cut and you know, be fresher at the fight. And use that weight, because this is a fight too where they didn't just come out and it was a kickboxing match where they didn't clinch up. This was Higo took him down in the first round, controlled the hell out of him for 4 minutes. Same thing second round, and got the finish. So he used that size and that weight advantage to his favor, and it helped him win the fight. I'm not saying skill set didn't, but you know, like being the bigger guy definitely helped. And yeah, man, you know, there's got to be bigger repercussions about this. I think it should be like 50% of your purse, because in the lower leagues too, you know, if somebody misses weight and they're making 500 and 500, you know what I mean? So what's, you know, a couple $100 to them if they miss weight? It's not a huge deal. But in the bigger shows, you know, if you lose 50% of your purse, you know, you could lose, you know, who knows, $50,000 or whatever you're getting paid, right? So that's a big sum of money that you don't want to miss out on. So I think it should be bigger repercussions. I was talking to this with Adrian Woolley, one of my old training partners and coaches, and he had a cool idea. It was like, he thinks every pound it should go up. So if you miss weight by like a pound, then you should get your 20% that they're doing now. But every other pound after that, it should be 30%, 40%, 50%. And then after that, the fight's off. So I think that was a kind of a cool idea too.
That's an interesting one. I do like it. And I think we're getting to the point of we got to make these fines more, because the game plan now is I'm not going to make weight. Screw it. I'll take my 20% and I'll still go out there, win the fight, be bigger. And that's just not in the name of what the sport was about. Like, obviously, okay, weight cutting has been an issue. And I know HBO just did a feature on, you know, bad weight cutting in MMA. Don't get me wrong. There's the other side of the coin to that. But if you're just going to purposely go out there and be a bit heavier for the unfair advantage when your opponent's been in there dying to pretty much go make the 135, 145, what have you, whatever the weight class is, these commissions have to, you know, smarten up, make some changes. And the promotions have to be a leading force in that as well, because it kind of hurts Higo's win. Like, it's a good win. He looked great. but everyone's more talking about, oh, he pretty much purposely missed weight to get the advantage.
Yeah, yeah. And as far as I see it, like he fought at featherweight, he's not that's not a bantamweight win right now. So, and I don't think it should propel him up the ranks. Yeah, and overall, yeah, for sure. But in a quest for a title shot, you didn't make weight, so that's on you. So yeah, man, it's an issue. Or I also had some people give me other ideas of the fighter getting a point off at the start of the fight, so they're already down in the round, which could make things really interesting. So there's lots of talks about that, but yeah, something's got to be done just because it's happening often, and it's not good.
No, not at all. But hopefully we can get something together. Obviously, other things are more priorities right now, but that's an issue that really, hopefully, in this sport they can figure out. Josh, what'd you think of the rest of this card? Because overall, I thought there were some bumps in the road. Like your first real fight on CBS Sports Network ends in a no contest because a guy gets a low blow in a fight that a lot of people were excited for with the Saito Wad fight. But all in all, it's a start here for Bellator on CBS Sports Network, and I just heard some good news today that they're moving the start times of the main card back 2 hours from 10 p.m. to 8 p.m., which I think will be huge on a Thursday night.
Yeah. Oh, definitely, man. Yeah. It sucks because also in the card they lost Patricky.
Yeah.
Pitbull's supposed to fight. He was a co-main event, and his fight fell through. There was some health issues or something going on behind the scenes where he didn't get cleared to fight. So that sucks because that was a fight I was looking forward to seeing. But yeah, the start time is a big thing, especially on a Thursday night because nobody's staying up late on Thursdays usually for the most part. So that 2 hour, pushback will be very beneficial, I think. It's gonna help my parents too when they're watching me.
Yeah, definitely gotta help out the Hills there, Scott Coker, because you got a top prospect out there gunning for a title right now. But you know what? This was as we talked about, this is a card that had a lot of up and coming names, good prospects, guys that they'd signed and hunted and helping develop for the future. And I think if anyone really impressed me was Steve Mowry. I mean, he's fought for Bellator for quite a while. He's now 8-0. Beat Sean Teed, who is a former CFFC heavyweight champion, and that's a guy that you can help build in a division that's kind of struggling a little bit right now in Bellator. We know it's Bader, but as champion, we're not sure who's going to really be next in line. But you build up a Steve Mowry, there's a homegrown talent taking on, one of your better acquisitions you've had that you fought in the UFC.
Yeah, it's always good to see that, man. You need these guys to step up and kind of make a name for themselves, and it's not just the same recycled guys all the time. New blood is a good thing, and it makes the divisions even more exciting. So yeah, man, that could be a name that could be up there eventually fighting for a title.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Bellator, they got a card. They're off this week, but they got a card on October the 29th. Once again, from Mohegan Sun, Gegard Mousasi will take on Douglas Lima for the middleweight title. And but the last time we saw a welterweight champ move up to take on Mousasi, it didn't go so well for Rory McDonald, but I think Douglas Lima possesses a little bit more intrigue and a different style for Mousasi.
Yeah, I'm excited for this one. I really like both these guys. I've been a huge Mousasi fan for forever, since like the Strikeforce days way back when. And I think he's one of those guys too that's like so undercredited. You know what I mean? Like I don't know how many fights he's had. He's had a million fights. And he's beat the who's who, and he's been up there at the tops, and he's just one of those guys that seems to not get that big recognition that he deserves. But he's fighting Lima, who I love watching Lima fight, man. I love watching his kicks. I think he's probably one of the best 170s on the planet right now, and probably one of the biggest champions Bellator has. So it's gonna be interesting to see him go up in weight class and see if he can nullify the wrestling of Mousasi and the ground control and the grappling. And see if he can, try and get a knockout win.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited for that one. And I think just on Lima's more natural frame, moving up to 185, I think it's going to suit him well than like how much Mousasi dwarfed Rory McDonald. Like it looks so uneven when they fought. I don't think it'll have that much of an effect, but that's in 2 weeks' time. And just looking at that card, getting to see Bobby Volker back in the realm of MMA. Like there's a name out of the past. Guy from Strikeforce had a run in the UFC that didn't go his way, but he's worked himself way back here to Bellator. I'm excited to see him. And of course, Nick Newell, always an exciting lightweight, the one-armed fighter, but a guy with a lot of skill.
Yeah, the Bobby Volker, I haven't heard that in a long time. To be honest,
exactly.
But yeah, Nick Newell, I love watching Nick Newell fight, man, and I think he's he's an awesome fighter, and it's crazy. It's so crazy to me that he still can do that with one arm. You know what I mean? Like it's like all the power to him, man. He just to be that good at a sport that involves so much with both your arms, to be that good with one, it's amazing.
Yeah, 16-3 as a pro, which is also kind of crazy. And I'm happy Bellator jumped on him as well, because they don't look at him and just like, oh, the gimmick, he's a one-armed fighter. Like, he's a talented guy at a really deep division. So I'm excited for that. And Josh, as we wind down episode 4 here, I got to give a shout out, because there's the XFC, the relaunch of the XFC. They're coming back on the air on NBC in the United States, November the 11th. And they're just signing all this leftover talent that either the Contender Series missed out on, or picking up guys a lot of people hadn't heard of unless you saw them regionally. Like I saw Scott Hudson just got signed, Jarrell Askew got signed. Yeah, they're signing a lot of these Canadian guys too, which is great to see. They signed, of course, Kenny the Boss Cross. I mean, it's exciting to see a promotion like that come along and really not look to just pick up a name. They're looking to just build from the grassroots up, develop these fighters coming on through, and I'm excited for them. They have the right platform, and the vibe they're giving off to me, I tweeted about this, it feels like the WEC back from like 2007, 2008, where those guys fought their ass off, got their names out there, and then some of them went on to become one of the bigger names in the sport. So I'm excited for this. I mean, I'm sure you, as someone that knows a lot of these guys that have been getting signed, you got to be excited for them, and just the vision that the XFC has.
Yeah, this is awesome. I think what I'm pretty sure is what happening is they're doing a lightweight and welterweight tournament style over. I'm not sure how long the course of it will be, but I think that's awesome, man. And yeah, they, like I said, that Scott Hudson, Ryan Dixon is back fighting. He's fighting for them. Michael Hill, actually, I've seen they're matched up again as a rematch. Spencer Jebb. There's a few other Canadians that they signed that were on there, so that's awesome to see the Canadians. I know these guys are dying to fight because everything's shut down here and there's really no shows happening. So it's good for these guys to get a fight and get active again and start making a living. So yeah, man, this is cool. I like what they're doing, and like I always say, man, the more shows like this, the better for the fighters.
Especially on an NBC, like NBC, they're back in the MMA game.
Yeah. I remember, I remember them with the World Series days. That's where I fought with them, and then they kind of faded away a bit, and then I guess now they're back.
Yeah, they're back. I mean, I'm excited for it. I think, as you said, the more MMA promotions out there, the better. The more MMA promotions that have a platform like NBC as well is for the best. So I'm excited for it. November 11th, can't get here soon enough. One more shout out Aaron Jeffrey, picked up a big second round TKO win in the LFA over Andrade Petrovsky. Pretty much Aaron's going to get a last minute UFC call or fight for the LFA title towards the end of 2020 or in 2021. And Aaron's just a whole new fighter since that loss to Brendan Allen in the Contender Series.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, going into the fight, and just, we said, he used that to his benefit, and he's learned so much from it and progressed, and he's even better fighter now, and I think he showcased that again. And I don't see Aaron, either signing with a big promotion or fighting for the LFA title. I think those are the only two options for him at this point.
It's the most impressive thing, that a guy that trains with the head coach and Chris Prickett for the Brock University wrestling team, which is the best wrestling program in Canada, beat a Division I NCAA wrestler at his own game. So shout out Chris Prickett, shout out Niagara Top Team, shout out the Brock Badgers. I know, as a fellow alum of University of Brock.
Yeah, man, that's the old Brock Badger days. Yep, I didn't even wrestle, which is crazy. I have no idea why, but I wasn't in MMA at the time. I wish I was. But yeah, they got the best program out there. Prickett at the helm, and he's awesome coach. And yeah, it showcased that, Jeffries and all the guys there at Niagara Top Team, their games are, stepping up huge, especially in the wrestling department.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Josh, that'll bring episode 4 of Jason and the Gentleman to a close. Good luck with the moving. Hopefully it's not too hectic. But, best of luck with the house, and we'll talk again next week as we'll recap UFC 254 and all the news and happenings that happen in this crazy sport they call mixed martial arts.
Awesome, brother. Thank you, and sounds good, and I'll see you at the new place.
Yeah, for sure. Well, everyone, have yourself a great week. We'll see you same bat time, same bat channel next Tuesday.